Kim, the business coach. I love it. Welcome to the Power Network.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, Amos.
Well, when you're talking about helping businesses double their business and then double that. So we're talking quadrupling. So if you're going to quadruple a business, we got to talk about this. I'm curious to hear what you do, your story, your strategies, all that stuff. So yeah, welcome here. Thanks for being in the group. Thanks for the interview. And where does your journey start, Kim? Because obviously this is what you do now in the marketplace, but where did you begin from?
Yeah, I'll give you the highlight reel.
Yeah.
So I spent about 20 years in corporate. I like to tell people I was about 5 years old when I started there.
Hang on, with the hair toss? With the
Yes, of course. Of course. Okay, so I spent about 20 years in corporate. My background, education-wise in school, I was a stats major and an econ minor, which surprising to me, may not surprise a lot of other people, I ended up in a painfully boring career in the retirement plan industry.
Okay.
I know, shocking, right? Shocking. So I ended up transitioning throughout that time, and I spent about the last 5 years of my corporate career as head of marketing, which was definitely a much better fit for me. And back in 2018, so about 5 years ago, I realized that I really didn't have the desire to be somebody's employee any longer. I didn't want to be surrounded by gray walls in a gray office in the commute and sit there working on things that I wasn't passionate about. And I knew that there had to be something else out there. So self-proclaimed numbers nerd, being a former stats major, I sat down and I made a Venn diagram. And I put my passions on one side, my skills on the other, and then you look for the overlap of the two circles with a Venn diagram. So my top skill was marketing, and I knew that that would be a marketable skill that I had. And my top passion at the time was supporting women. I was very involved with raising awareness about domestic violence. I had previously, in a few years prior to that, lost a friend who was murdered in an act of domestic violence. So I was very passionate. I was very involved with our local domestic violence shelter. I would do speaking events for them. I would raise awareness. I worked a part-time temporary job there for a while. So my top skill, or my top skill was marketing, top passion was supporting women. And then I looked for the overlap and I thought, what could I do to support women with my marketing skills? And obviously it was a no-brainer that I could help female business owners. And then it was just down to, I didn't even know that the coaching space existed outside of like sports, right? Like my kids always had a coach for their baseball and everything. And I thought, well, I don't really want to be just doing their marketing for them. I want to teach them how to do marketing. And I started looking around online, and that's really when I discovered the coaching space. And I think my jaw hit the floor and my brain melted, thinking, wait a minute, I can literally get paid to teach people how to do marketing. I can get paid to hang out with brilliant business owners and help them grow their business. Like, this almost feels like it should be illegal. Like, how is this possible that something this enjoyable and I can get paid to do this work? And so I started out just focusing on helping women with marketing. I think I even called myself a marketing coach in the beginning, and I taught a lot about content creation and automating things. And I ended up launching my business while I still worked in corporate, and I did both of them for about 3 years. I wanted to scale my coaching business to the six-figure mark before I felt really comfortable leaving my corporate job. So that's what I did. I scaled to the six-figure mark and went full-time into coaching a couple of years ago now.
Yep. Okay. Well, you make it sound so easy, Kim.
It's just so easy.
This is it. Fell in my lap.
That's just what I did.
I had no sweat. And follow me, no sweat. No, okay. Okay, so you took Venn diagram, because you dove into that. Can you go a little deeper? Venn diagram. Why does that work? What is that?
Yes, I'm going to. Oh, good. I have a black pen right here. So when we are making decisions, it helps us. I'm actually going to use, I bet you this one will show up better. I'm going to use an orange highlighter.
Yep.
And when we're deciding between things, so this might be backwards for you. I wrote skills above this circle.
Yeah.
Oh, good. And then I'm going to make another circle. and I listed my passions above here. So then in this one, I wrote down like marketing. I was in the retirement plan industry, so I knew a lot about retirement plans. I knew some stuff about like spreadsheets and streamlining things and organization. I just listed all my skills here. So when you're deciding between things or trying to figure out how things correlate, you can use that first circle and list everything under that topic. Then over here, I had my top passion was supporting women. I'm also was an advocate for animal rights. I loved running, exercise. I used to teach Zumba and fitness classes. And so I listed like all of my passions over here. And then you look for the overlap of what things, so I always shade in the overlap. How do my skills and my passions overlap with each other? So that's when I took my top passion of supporting women and my top skill of marketing, and I listed here marketing and women. And then I asked myself, where's the overlap between marketing and women? I was like, oh, I could help female business owners with their marketing.
Okay.
So you can use a Venn diagram like this to really help you identify and process different decisions that you're making, especially when you have two choices like this. Now we can get real fancy and we could add like a third circle and then look where all three overlap. But it's nice and simple when we have two things that we're comparing and trying to figure out what is the same about these two things.
What would be the third circle you would add if you were to add a third?
So if I added a third circle here, knowing now what I know, this might be monetization, money making, wealth abilities, right? So for example, if I had decided that by supporting women entrepreneurs, if this one here was, we'll put a little dollar sign in the US, if this was wealth and money here, then maybe where all three overlap is exactly what I ended up doing of helping business owners with their marketing. Someplace that overlapped up here, that overlapped with skills and passion, but not the money circle. Maybe that would have looked like if I said, oh, you know what I really want to do? I want to help women's shelters in the nonprofit area.
Okay. Okay.
Right now, there's not as much money making opportunity inside of these that just overlap with these two, but it doesn't have that money making component because nonprofits, they have to rely on funding and donors and cash is strapped. So then that one would have fallen up here where just the two overlapped.
That's brilliant. You just gave valuable information, a real valuable tool for anyone that's looking to make a decision. And then obviously your skills as you grow on your journey, what's in your skill circle just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. 4 years ago,
yes,
I started taking all these technical stuff, email marketing, videography, sales. So your skills in life grow if you're at all trying to learn. And that's your passions also might change over time, but monetization is the market. It's like you can find out right away, is this a monetizable industry I'm looking at? That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Venn diagram. That's called a Venn diagram.
Yep. VENN. Venn. I think I'm going way back in my mental bank. I believe it's named after the man that created this mathematical tool. I believe his last name was Venn, but don't slide into my DMs and tell me if I was wrong about that, because I might be wrong about that, but I believe it's the mathematician's last name that created it.
Beautiful. So you came to this place in life where you're realizing corporate, not for me, but you have this skill set in stats and you're like, how can and I'm passionate about helping women. So you blend the two together. And 2 years ago, you went full-time after building up your business to 6 figures minimum before you launched. And so what has the last 2 years been like for you, Kim?
Really interesting. Really interesting. Something that I hadn't prepared for, and anybody in the group or people coming in the future that watch this, it's a real mind bend when you've been in corporate for so long with that regular paycheck coming in, right? And then you transition into becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I wasn't prepared for how mentally difficult that was. I thought I had already done all of that work because I had built my business to a certain level. And what I realized is there's a whole new depth to self-resiliency that happens when you transition from, that regular paycheck is going to hit your account on every Friday or whatever it is, over to the potential for wealth is so much greater in your own business. but it's not just a guaranteed to come in on a certain day of the week.
Mm.
And that was the one piece of the mindset work that I hadn't been prepared for, that being as stressful as it felt in the beginning. So that first year, I spent a lot of time just really worrying. I also had more time available to me in my days than I had ever had before. Because prior to leaving corporate, even though we went through COVID, um, and my days were still right. I was working 30 hours a week for my corporate job, and then I was running my business in addition to that. And I'm married, and we have three very busy kids who are all in sports. So my days were always just jam packed. Well, then when I removed those 30 hours of corporate, I had all of this new available time. And it was really interesting to see that, number one, I think that in a sense contributed to the stress that I felt about the pressure I was putting on my business with making that transition, because I just had more time where my brain could focus on that.
Mm.
But then it was also a blessing because I had more time to focus on those things. So I found that I was like, oh, I'm going to do like, I got a therapist. I'm like, we're doing all the things. I'm bringing up every ounce of like anything that doesn't feel fantastic inside of me. We're just dealing with it now. And so it turned out to be a period where I really had to learn. I made that transition, that mental transition, into knowing that like it's okay that we don't know when the next dollar is coming into our businesses. We just have to know that we're doing everything and the money comes in. But it's not like every Thursday at 8 a.m. it hits the bank account. And then it was also a big year of internal transformation for me, with just dealing with some old things that had happened, some traumas. And really diving into, what does this next stage, what is this going to look like for me? Like, what do I want to intentionally cultivate in my business, as opposed to feeling like I'm just like blowing around in the wind? So I became much more intentional about things.
Wow. So that's the last 2 years. And now you said you're launching a class. No,
I
yeah.
opened a small business school.
Okay. What does that look?
So, um, so first I want to share what my coaching looked like
Yeah,
before,
yeah,
because
yeah.
this played in with why the school is structured the way that it is. So I've been coaching clients either privately one-to-one, or in a traditional group coaching sense, where I would open enrollment, get some people in, we'd spend a designated amount of time, like maybe 6 months we spend together. And I mentioned, I originally had this passion to only support women, just because it like filled that need. And I've grown and I've healed from some of the traumas of losing a friend so tragically and horrifically. And something that I realized is that gender isn't important to me, values are. So I don't have any desire to help businesses that feed into some of the societal things going on that don't benefit all humans. I do have a desire to help every heart-centered. My clients are all good people. Like I don't have the desire to help anybody that is not fundamentally a good person with good values, bringing more goodness into the world, making connections and educating people. Whatever their form of magic that they bring into the world, that's who I want to work with. So I made the decision at the end of last year that I was opening up my coaching to be for all genders. Again, just they have to be aligned with values. That's what's most important to me. And I've always been a passionate supporter of underprivileged areas. I've had clients in South Africa and the Philippines. And I know, Amos, you said you're in Canada. I'm in the United States. So we have pretty similar economic conditions in our two countries. But I still remember one of my first South African clients that I had. I was blown away when she was like, well, I can't make the call. This is when load shedding is. And I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what? I
Yeah.
had no idea. I had no idea. And when she explained to me, yes, the government shuts down our electricity, and I was like, what? Right? Like it was mind blowing to me. And again, in these other more unstable economies, I'm not saying that any economy is perfect, but being in Canada like yourself, or the US like me, we are considered to have fairly stable economies compared to some of these other countries. And so I really sat down, and my private one-to-one coaching is $25,000 investment for the year. And I really just started analyzing that. And I thought, you know, that's making a really big assumption that number one, people are mentally at a place where they're willing to invest at that level and that they truly have access, even if it's to credit, right? A business loan or a credit card or something to finance their business growth. Not everybody has access to that. And we all live in the day and age where we have more access to information. Technology is at an all-time high. Education is more widespread, yet the rate of successful small businesses hasn't really budged. Here in the US, and I believe it's similar in Canada, I'm sure it's pretty similar around the world, but here in the US, conservative numbers show that 50% of small businesses fail by year 5. Some estimates project it to be closer to 80 or 90% that fail by year 5.
Yeah, it's like way up there. Yeah.
It's way up there. And I thought, gosh, we have Google at our fingertips. We have the easiest time getting information. Why hasn't this impacted small business growth, small business success? And I thought to myself, so I have seen businesses that are too afraid to invest in support that they end up closing their doors. And I thought, what is happening that people are more afraid of investing in support than they are of shutting down their business? And so I really spent some time with that. And I thought the missing key for so many of these business owners, right? You can even come out of college with this great business degree and then they struggle because that business degree taught them about some strategies, but they actually don't know what it's like to hire their first employee. They haven't had their personal finances on the line of what if I hire this person and then we don't have the business coming in? Or it's not their face attached to the business until now. Or they don't know what it's really like to look at their customers and say, we're doubling our rates. And the customer saying, I know I've worked with you for 3 years, but like I'm out, right? Like they haven't personally done any of those things. They've learned about it, and doing is very different than learning. And so I truly believe that the reason so many small businesses have struggled to survive and thrive beyond that 5-year threshold is because they don't have ongoing education and support. Coaching high-end coaching has become a little bit of an elitist thing with those higher investment levels where the businesses that are either in the right place mentally to see how they can make that investment, or their business is already generating enough income to support that level of investment. But it left out this whole group of people that aren't already there mentally or don't have the income to support it. And so I really started thinking about this and I thought, I believe I can do something to create massive improvements on small business success rate. And this is where the idea of small business school was born. I call it the small business school AP track. Just like in school, we have AP classes for advanced placement. And I've designed the school to support all types of businesses, service-based, product-based. I do not care about somebody's gender or gender identity. They can come into the school. And I have a core curriculum. I feel like I basically broke open my brain and I sat down and I poured everything out. What is everything I think a business, what is everything I've seen a business struggle with? And what is everything that I think they need to know to make their business more successful? And I poured all of that out into modules and videos and resources that they can access. But I believe that live support is absolutely necessary for long-term success. Most e-courses, we love them, we sell them, we buy them, but they have a lower percent of long-term success rate because there's nobody holding the students accountable, right? And our own accountability is absolutely necessary. That's why so many people don't hit their goals. So inside a small business school, we have the entire core curriculum set up that students can enroll and they have immediate access to that core curriculum. And then I host weekly office hours for about an hour, and everything is loaded inside the portal. And that way students can come and they can get live feedback on their business. So if they're launching a new product or launching a new service and they get hung up, whether it's a mindset issue or a strategy issue, they can bring all of that into the office hours. And I truly believe that keeping this barrier to entry lower for students to come in, the financial barrier to entry lower, is how more businesses are going to continue to get this ongoing lifetime education and support. And that's what I see really moving the needle on long-term business success rates.
Can you give us some testimonials of people you've worked with then? Obviously your school is just opening up, but in terms of your one-on-ones?
Oh, yeah. So when I work with clients, and the same with the school, I just opened up the doors to the school on April 1, and I had 20 businesses that enrolled immediately. So when the doors opened on April 1, they were already enrolled in the program. So that's really fun that we're already up and running. For private coaching and with the school, people come to me with their businesses at all different levels. What I want business owners to know is that there's no magical time when you don't have to grow to a certain level before you're worthy of getting support in your business. That's something that I saw a lot of business owners do when, especially women, they would think that, oh, well, I have to make at least XYZ dollars before I can invest in support. I want everybody to know that, I mean, gosh, when my son was 4, the first thing we did was sign him up for T-ball, and he had a coach. Like, we all associate with our children learning things as having coaches in their lives with athletics, with sports. But for some reason, we become resistant to it with ourselves. And especially when business ownership is brand new to you, there's no way on God's green earth you are expected to know everything when you've never done it before. And if you have been in business for a while and you can't scale past a certain point, or gosh, you had one high year and then things have just tanked and you can't figure out why. We create our own glass ceilings. All of us do. We create our own glass ceilings by allowing those things to continue instead of investing in the support that we need. So when businesses come to me, whether it was for my private coaching or coming into the school, they're at various different levels of growth. So one of my clients, she sells jewelry, which is super fun. So it's a lower priced product. And we just celebrated earlier this year that lifetime in her business, over 5 years now, she has sold over $1 million worth of jewelry. So we just celebrated her crossing over that $1 million threshold mark. I've had clients that come to me that are struggling to sell. I had one client, she was another coach, and she had made like $1,200. She signed on with me in June of that year, and she had made $1,200 in the first 6 months of the year. So she was sitting at a very different position than the woman that we just crossed $1 million with. She had made $1,200. Her programs were all over the place. She was trying to sell as cheap as she possibly could. So we restructured her coaching offer. We dove deep into pricing. And by the end of, she worked with me for 6 months. And by the end of our 6 months, she had signed 4 clients in one day. She was easily selling $5,000 packages, and she was starting to pitch $10,000 packages. I have several stories like that of somebody selling a service that was really struggling to do, like sell a $200 package, that then we scaled them up to selling $10,000 packages.
Isn't it amazing
Yeah.
the mindset, it's like, why do we think that we need to reduce our value and people will buy if we reduce the value, instead of going, no, let's bring the value and the price way up. I need less customers. Why do we automatically think, until we learn this, to sell stuff for $50 or $100, and then we have to service 1,000 people? Why don't we think of, no, give more, charge more, and serve like 30 people?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Number one, I think most of us have grown up to be conditioned to shop the deals, look for the cheapest. Don't go buy the most expensive thing. That's irresponsible. Don't take out debt unless it's for a school, a house, or a car. Any other debt is irresponsible. Like, we're conditioned to think this way from the time we're teeny tiny. And the other thing that I think plays into it is that, especially if somebody hasn't been in charge of their own pricing for very long, that they think pricing has got to be the problem, right? Oh, I didn't close that deal. I bet if it was cheaper, I would have closed that deal. And so what people will notice, though, is they think price is the problem when that's not really the issue. The real issue is that something didn't happen correctly in their sales process. But it's easy for their brain to go to price. But what they usually find is when they lower the price, people still don't buy. Right? Oh man, you can't do that at $2,000. I mean, I could make it $1,500, and the response is, I don't know, I'll have to think about it. And the person doesn't come back and buy because price wasn't the problem. And then specifically, I'm going to add a third one here, specifically to online entrepreneurs. I think that there is a big trend when we see people that have massively large audiences, right? Massively large. And we see them sell something really cheap. What so many online entrepreneurs think is, oh, if I can sell something really cheap, like it'll be a no-brainer. It's so cheap, people will have to buy it. But again, that's not what happens. What you forget, if you're a brand new entrepreneur and you have an audience of 1,000 people, that is incredibly different. It's opposite end of the spectrum compared to if Beyonce were to launch a $10 deal. People are going to buy something with Beyonce or Oprah's name on it, right? Anybody that is at that celebrity status, they can sell something dirt cheap because their audience is millions of people. So they can make a lot of money on a very cheap offer. Amy Porterfield is one. I've seen a lot of people think, but Amy Porterfield, she does her email thing and it's like $50, right? But she has a massively large audience, and it comes down to numbers. If you're trying to sell something cheap with a small audience, you're going to make very little money. You need a large audience to sell something cheap, or to a small audience, you can sell something higher end, higher ticket. And then it's this happy medium that occurs where you are actually making enough money to live your life, which means you provide better support to your clients. So your clients are better supported too.
How did you walk her through that? And others clients, I'm sure, where you're dealing with pricing, how did you get them to let go of their thing, which wasn't working anyway? But how did you get them to let go? Because you have to coach them on that.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yes.
confronting a bunch of different mindsets there.
Yes, and it can be a little bit different for each person. The coach that I'm thinking about, her background was in social work, and so she very much had the mindset that everybody was struggling because that's what she saw in her, right? She was constantly dealing with people that were struggling.
Yeah.
So with her, we really had to expand her belief and to see that there's a whole bunch of people in the world that are not struggling like what you're thinking they are. Right. So for her, it was about seeing that there's a ton of people out there that can invest in this. I had another client at one point who she did social media marketing, and she was serving like 10 clients a month to make $2,000. And she was doing it all herself. She was working a ton of hours. She had no boundaries with her clients. So they would call her on the weekends, and she was a mom of, would she have 3 or 4 kids? And I was like, this needs to change. But number one, she was already running a $24,000 a year business. And at school with her children, when somebody would ask her what she would do, she would still say, I'm a stay-at-home mom. That was her self-concept, that she was a stay-at-home mom. And I said, you're actually not. You're a business owner. Like, you're running a $24,000 a year business. And she was like, holy crap, I am. And so with her, we really worked on, what is this current self-concept and what do you actually want it to be? And her bigger dream was that she was running an agency. And it was so fun to see because we dove into that work right away with her. And by the end of her time with me, by the end of her 6 months, where she was previously serving 10 clients a month to make $2,000, she was now serving 8 clients a month to make $10,000 a month. Like we virtually flipped it. We raised her prices, which was a huge mental game for her, right? She let some clients go that weren't the best fit clients, which opened up space, room, and creativity to bring in higher paying clients.
Let's talk about that, because you just said it. Okay, that principle, when we let go of what isn't working for us, it might not be working for the other party too.
Yeah.
Why do we create space? Why does that vacuum pull something else in? What is that?
I believe, so I'm also a neuroscience nerd. So I love learning all things neuroscience. So in our brain, for anybody that's not familiar with like very basics with the brain here, we all form neural pathways in our brain. So, there's the age-old saying, like, once you learn how to ride a bike, like you always know how to ride a bike, right? Because that forms a very strong neural pathway in your brain. So if you know how to ride a bike and you don't get on a bike for 5 years, guess what? You don't have to relearn it like a child. You still can get on and ride a bike. Every single thought and belief that we hold in our brain creates a neural pathway. So if we grew up thinking, If we grew up as a child, maybe we grew up in not the greatest environment. And if you heard message as a child, like you're never going to amount to anything, money is not for us, rich people are assholes, they're just going to take advantage of you, you don't want to be the boss because everybody hates you, right? Any of these things, if that's what we grew up hearing, that's what's wired into our brain. It's like that programming got installed into our brain. So then it's time to intentionally say, like, gosh, is that actually serving me? So with my old client that had the self-concept where she would still just introduce herself as a stay-at-home mom. It's like, right, but like, is that serving you? And she's like, no, I don't know why I don't tell anybody I run a business.
Wow.
And so then it was like, okay, let's talk about like what new programming do we want to install? What are the facts? The facts are you run a $24,000 a year business. The facts are guarantee your 10 clients that you're serving all believe you're a business owner, right? They've all entrusted you with money and their services. So we started listing out the facts. And when we can create space for ourselves, when our brain is in any form of stress response, we can't tap into creativity and the executive functioning. So the lower part of the brain, the amygdala, is like the little almond-shaped part in the bottom of our brain. That's what controls the fight or flight. So when we are in a stress response and our brain doesn't know the difference, if we are in a truly physically dangerous situation and that activates, right? Maybe somebody lunges out to attack us. Maybe it's walking down a dark street and we're just like starting to feel unsafe. That's the area of the brain. Some people call it the lizard brain because even lizards have it, right? That's what makes animals scurry away from us when they're out in nature because they just know danger, get out of here. When that part of the brain is activated, that is what's firing off for us. That's what's creating the stress response in your body. Your executive functioning is up here in the prefrontal cortex. This is where actual like critical decision making happens. We can't access both parts of the brain at the same time. So when we can lower our stress, and that's what I truly believe happens when we create space to allow other things to come in, I believe we have lowered our stress level, which then reduces the activity going on in the amygdala. And we can tap into the front part of the brain, which is where our most creative thoughts come from. And we make cleaner decisions and we act on those decisions.
Wow.
That's why I think when we form this space, it's almost like our brain gets to take a breath. Like, I don't have to worry right now. Because when we're busy worrying, we're not busy creating.
Well, you can't, yeah, because and even the chemicals in the body, the stress chemicals, it's just, man, they destroy, they pave the way for dis-ease.
Yes.
It's just, it's not, we've all felt it. I know when I'm doing it and it's like my body tightens up. Like
Yes.
everything that can happen that's bad can happen. And then the second you get to joy and thankfulness and gratefulness, suddenly it's like possibilities. Some people call it the chakra, whatever that is, but something is up here. Okay, so oh, we've gone some places here. Okay, how are people going to reach out to you? I'm going to tag you, Kim, in this, obviously.
Wonderful.
They free
Yes.
reach out on Facebook?
Yes. So I am on virtually all the socials. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And my handle on all of them is the @ Kim the Business Coach. So nobody has to remember how to spell my last name. On my personal Facebook, it is under my first and last name, Kim Trathen, and people are more than welcome to connect with me there as well. But if you search up Kim the Business Coach, they can find me there. If they go to, actually I have two websites, but one just points to the other. So for ease, I'm going to list kimthebusinesscoach.com because that matches my handle. And that is also where they can get all of the information on Small Business School AP track if they are interested in jumping in and getting that lifetime support for their business. Then they can head right to kimthebusinesscoach.com. They'll find the school on there and then they can read all about it and send me any messages with any questions that they have.
Amazing. You obviously are fascinated by the brain because you've referenced a few parts here. So that's, I'll reach out to you after this regarding something to do with that. But thank you, Kim, for being on the Empower Network. And if you have been watching or listening to the Empower Network, Kim Trathen or Kim the Business Coach, look her up, comment, share, tag, like, and get in touch with her if anything she said resonates with you. Thanks, Kim. This was an absolute treat today. So I appreciate you just being who you are.
Yes, thank you, Amos. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Okay, we'll chat soon.